Hello, boys and girls. In today's lesson, we're going to discuss a few things about the perimeter of a polygon. And the content objective for this lesson is I can determine the perimeter of a polygon or a missing length when given the perimeter and remaining side lengths. And the language objective is I can explain how I determine the perimeter of a polygon or the missing length of a side using the words perimeter, length, side, add, subtract, part, and whole. Those are vocabulary words for this lesson. And our sentence stems are, the perimeter is blank units, inches, centimeters, feet, meters, and so on. Or the length of the missing side is blank units. Same thing, we can use the measurement units I just talked about, inches, centimeters, feet, meters. And the last sentence stem is, I know because blank. So we're just going to explain how we find the perimeter or how we found the missing length. Now before we start, I hope you remember Dash. Dash was a robot we used to go around different shapes that we made on the carpet. And I remember we traced those shapes or those polygons, and Dash simply just went around, or you coded for Dash to go around that shape. And going around is what perimeter is. The perimeter is the total distance around the outside of a polygon. And the way we calculate or we determine the perimeter is by adding the length of all sides. Now let's go into the first example. The first example says, what is the perimeter of the polygon shown below? And it also says that each square in the grid is a 1 by 1 centimeter square. So when I see the word squares, I may feel compelled to count squares. So I may feel I have to count the squares inside, but remember that squares inside or inside space represents area. We're not talking about area in this problem, we're talking about perimeter. So I want to know the boundary of this shape, how long this line is. So to figure out how long this line is, I just have to use this information about the square, which is, if it's 1 by 1, it means that this line, the length and the width is the same because it's a square, and that is 1. So this line here is 1 as well as all the other lines. So I'm just going to start counting. And I'm going to start counting by 1. So I'm going to start 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, and 24. Now 24, remember we're talking about centimeters, so the perimeter of the polygon is 24 centimeters. Now, I can also determine the perimeter by labeling. In this case, I have the squares, but if I didn't have the squares, I can label, or sometimes they're labeled already for us. So I label the sides, so that's 1 centimeter, 2 centimeters, 3, 1, 3 again, 1, 5, 2, 4, and 2. And what I'm going to do with those numbers, which are the lengths of each side, is that I'm going to write an equation that is adding all the sides. So I'm adding 10 sides. Remember, it's a 10-sided polygon. So I'm going to add all 10 sides, and then I'm just going to group them to make the addition easier. And then that's 3 plus 4 plus 4 plus 7 plus 6. And if you do the math of that, if you add all of those, the total is, of course, the same, 24 centimeters. Now for our second example, in this case, the perimeter is given. So we know the perimeter. It says the perimeter of this polygon is 24 units. What is the length of the missing side of the polygon? And that's right. Yes, this shape is exactly the same as the one from example number 1. So this is also a 10-sided polygon and has been labeled. We have the length of each side, but there's one side that we don't know the length. Now, we may know from the previous example the length, but the purpose of this example is to find out how we can determine it. So when we're missing a side, well, in this case, we have to also be aware that this side and this side are the same. So we still have 10 sides. So I'm going to start also counting from this side. I don't want to count it again, so I need to know where I'm starting. And I need to also use the concept of perimeter about adding all sides. So I'm just going to make an equation where all sides are added. And as you can see, I'm adding all the sides, and I should have 10 numbers. Also, I have 2 unknown sides. Okay, and all of these make 10. So, and the addition of this, the total of this addition is 24. Because that's what the problem says, that the perimeter is 24 units. Now, I'm just going to put the numbers together. So 4 plus unknown plus 6 plus 8 is 24. I keep adding, and I get to 2 unknowns plus 18 is 24. Those 2 unknown numbers are the same. And this makes me think about the part-whole relationship. So once I have, if the whole is known and I'm missing a part, I know that if I take away from the whole, I should get the other part. So I'm going to subtract. 24 minus 18 is 6. So 2 numbers that are exactly the same, if I add those 2 numbers, the answer is 6. That should be 3. So 3 plus 3 is 6. Now, I could say, I have to be careful that this 6, because I just subtracted and that's it, I think I'm done. I could say that 6 is the length of this side. But as you can see, 6, if this number is 6, it would be bigger than this. And this side, as you can see, is much bigger than this. So you have to be careful because this unknown is also here. So what I have to do is split it between these 2 unknowns. So the answer will be 3 and 3. Okay, so yes, the answer is 3 units. All right, so just to recap, let's not forget that with perimeter, we have 2 possible scenarios. We can add when you have all side lengths to find the perimeter, or you can subtract when you're missing a side and the perimeter is given. Okay, so it's time for us to practice. I know that you are doing a fantastic job. Very proud of the work that you've been doing. So please don't forget that if you have any questions, you know where to reach me.